Some time ago during the lockdown, I got into Mobile Suit Gundam, the mostly animated franchise about semi-realistic space warfare. Somehow weirdly contemporary, in its own 80s way though, also manages to avoid most of the world-building issues of a film franchise that inspired it in turn the most, which is Star Wars. By avoiding the mostly pure white and black narrative, while also making the culture and politics of this future society more present and interesting to analyze. And this way before the Star Wars prequels will bring it to the forefront. So as a first recommendation for a fast viewing, as I did it, I'd say that the free compilation film of the 0079 series, the Origin OVA, Zeta Gundam, and the Double Zeta, if you want it, and Thunderbolts and other spin-offs like the War in the Pocket and the other stuff, are quite nice. Tonally, the series is kinda weird, as it passes from war crimes to slapstick comedy at a dime. But a constant is that the openings are almost always very good. The Zeta opening is great, and the animation of it, which was done mostly by one person, is incredible. Thing is that even later Italian openings are good too. But that's a sort of constant with Italian openings. The world of Gundam is a ruthless one, where the abuse of power and scale of conflict become more and more out of control, where people become culturally detached from their pasts and origins by technology that disturbs the communication between them, here represented for example by the communication systems. So, in general, it's one of those shows about communications, which is quite a recurring motif in some Japanese media. Interestingly enough, the culture of the world has evolved past ethno-cultural differences, which is seen even in a minor thing like character names and surnames, which are usually a mixture of names from different world cultures. For example, in characters like Amore, Mondo, Agake, Bicha, Oleg, Quattro Vagina, and others. Country boundaries also have kind of dissipated, having now a sort of big federation that has a flag weirdly similar to Brazil, and due to the increasing man-made pollution of Earth, humanity moved to space colonies that now want to be independent from Earth. The complete cultural detachment of the people of the universe is shown in proprio in one of the most iconic scenes of the show, where we see the leader of the space Nazi forces, because, you know, space Nazi, being compared to the Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler, which, not knowing the implication of such a comparison, takes it as a sort of compliment, as a comparison to a sort of old historic general, from a time that these future people were called Middle Ages. Like, he takes it as if we were comparing him to someone like Napoleon Alexander the Great, something, and delivers one of the weirdest lines ever. If we want to read into the thematic focus of Gundam, they usually work as a sort of representation of what people see as the inner turmoils of the author, Yoshiyuki Tomino. Which is not really that, because he's kind of more not on the boomer side. Anyway. On one hand, there's the first one, which is a sort of bleak view of our universe, as no matter how much we progress as a species and civilization, people will always have, or will create, a sort of reason to fight. At the same time, it is countered by the ideal that, even in conflict, people can work towards trying to communicate, love and work with each other. So basically, Metal Gear, Pokemon, you name it. A lot of media in Japan got this sort of thematic divide, let's say, into them. And basically the clash of these two ideals is what drives most of the conflict in the series, apart from the numerous war crimes. While talking about the Gundamio, A cool thing to know is how it influenced other works with its designs, mood and narrative. So we could talk about Evangelion and how the show is basically the same thing, or how No More Heroes has a lot of Gundam things actually is quite similar, like in the world being not... Anyway, but one of the things I wanted to talk about more, it's Final Fantasy VII, which at this point people will start assuming is my favorite since I talk so much about it, but not really. And without talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, which I already talked in another video, the inspiration and visuals that the game got from things like Mamoru Oshii's Ghost in the Shell and things like Jinro, the Kerberos things, and Pat Labor, is quite self-evident in things like the fonts and maps they use. But if you want to check for Gundam stuff, it becomes quite predominant and aggressive. With the colonies being represented by the sectors of Midgar, with its ruling oligarchy, of which we have a son succeeding his father in the dictatorship thing, the dropping of plates, using myths of descendants as propaganda, like there's a lot. Going even for more Zeta Gundam and Double Z stuff, like the colony laser present in Gundam is converted to the colony with a cannon, or even the Midgar cannon thing. There are heavy undertones of environmentalism and pollution brought by human action. Meteors, slappings, miners revolting, cross-dressing to get into a palace owned by the rich guy who owns a section of a junk town styled after the non-specific Kyoto-like district that wants to make a harem, vehicles made for desert travel, having the protagonist losing consciousness and becoming hospitalized for a bit, spherical escape pods, you name it, we got it. Like, there's a lot. More interestingly though, some of the monster designs in the game are also heavily lifted from Mobile Suit designs, like the diamond weapon being based on the AMX 004 Cubile, piloted by Hammond Khan, who, along with Quattro Vagina, is kind of the best character in the entire show. We got Emerald weapon based on the AMX 002, New Zeal, and the Ruby weapon on the MSM 03C, Hygog. And if you want to go for my trademark big stretches, you could say that Sin from Final Fantasy X is also kind of based on the Axis from Double Zeta. Anyway, I will stop talking about Final Fantasy for now, and I'll end the video saying that Gundam is a really interesting series. It's kind of helped me during a bit of a bad period. And I hope that this video will make you at least check it out, or at least have made you pass your time well. Well, I hope you have a nice day, and yeah, bye.